the chair of the Employers Council, who we'll be talking to. We have Deborah Robinson, who's the acting program manager for the North Bay and District Multicultural Center, and she'll be talking about settlement and all of the issues that we are dealing with at the center. And then we have Karen Stray, who is with Nipissing University, representing the educational center, particularly international education. And then we have Marla Tremblay, who is the co-chair as well of North Bay Newcomer Network with the city. So we have a rather dynamic group that will be presenting. And we're going to go in order that people are sitting. And so I would like you to come up, John, and begin the show.
Marla wants to go first, but she's going last.
Thanks, LJ. It's probably a good thing that we're following the conference board presentation, because what we're going to be doing is bringing you up to date from 2006. So what's been going on in North Bay from 2006 to 2011, and there's actually been a lot. So while this presentation is North Bay specific, we see it as being appropriate to all the Northern Ontario cities. We are probably a little bit further ahead than most as far as our local immigration partnership work goes, because it started way back before there were local immigration partnerships. We had the North Bay Newcomer Network actually started in 2005, so we've been at it for a while. So we will be talking to you about what we've been doing since we started. Now, a key strategy that we found is working together, and Diana mentioned that. She's talking about, the North working together and working together with other people in the province. We certainly work together in the city of North Bay. North Bay Newcomer Network started with the Mayor's Office of Economic Development, soon grew to be very large, now has more than 40 some odd partners. One of the keys too is the two co-chairs work together very, very closely. So I'm representing the Multicultural Center, which is sort of the one-stop shopping for newcomers coming to town, and Marla's representing the city and economic development. And we talk to each other constantly, probably too much. She's nodding her head. So I think that is one of the big keys to showing how we have been effective today is the communication and the cooperation between the city and the Multicultural Center. The Multicultural Center was a product of the North Bay Newcomer Network. It came about from a symposium we had at Canadore College in 2006, where we had almost 90 people there, and the number one recommendation was, if you want to attract immigrants, you better have an immigrant settlement agency. And so we went out and did that with the support of the city and, of course, Citizenship and Immigration Canada. So I think regular contact ensures consistent communication messages, and Diana mentioned that too in her presentation, talking about a PR campaign to showcase the North so it looks attractive to newcomers. And I think that's one thing that we're fairly good at in North Bay, and I'm going to spend most of my time just talking about communications initiatives. Newspaper articles is one way we've got the word out that we are trying to be a welcoming community, try to educate the people who are here about newcomers coming in. We've had a number of articles written about newcomers, profiles, why they came, what they're doing while they're here, how they're being successful, how they're contributing to the community. So I wrote a number of those myself, probably about a dozen, and then the North Bay Nugget has written many others as well. So we're a constant force in the newspaper. So we're fairly visible that way, and people are seeing sort of the people behind the scenes that are changing the community and the people coming in. If you look at your North Bay Newcomer Network flyers that were in your package, the slogan we have is changing the face of North Bay. And we didn't come up with that. That was a headline in the Nugget that they ran on one of our articles. And we think it's quite appropriate. So this is pretty serious work that we're all involved in. We are changing the face of North Bay. Those of you who've come in from Toronto and Ottawa, maybe walk down the streets in North Bay tomorrow or the next day, you're certainly not going to see Ottawa or Toronto reflected on the streets. But as somebody who's been here for 37, 38 years, I'm seeing the change now, just in the last couple of years. So it is starting to change. Cable TV interview shows is something else we've done. I just finished a couple with Peter Hanley, who's a local interview host, well-known broadcaster locally. Does half-hour TV shows on Cogeco Cable. And the beauty of Cogeco Cable is it's not just on once. You know, when the show goes to air, it's on about 6 times that week, and then it's on in repeats all summer long. You know, so I did 2 shows with them in the last month, and they're probably going to be broadcast 100 times. So eventually, you know, most of the people who have cable TV in town will see it. And we talked about immigration, and we talked about, you know, setting the scene for changing the face of North Bay. Cable TV is also very, very good at covering events. They cover all our events. They'll probably be dropping by today or tomorrow or the next day and getting news on TV. So that's certainly a way of getting the message out. Self-produced radio programs is another thing. We've done, I don't know, about 12, 15 radio programs where I've brought in people to the studio to talk about different aspects of immigration. Talk about the mosque that has been established in North Bay a couple of years ago, or talk about the city's economic development initiatives with Marla, or talk about one immigrant's experience in coming to North Bay and what they like, what they didn't like, and the challenges. Again, just getting that voice out there and getting people who live in North Bay accustomed to the changes that are coming. Those radio programs were broadcast on North Bay Radio, and then we've saved them digitally, and they are now available on the North Bay Immigration portal. So anybody who's thinking of coming to North Bay can listen to those. If you're Muslim and you want to know about the mosque, you know, you can go right to that broadcast where the president of the Muslim Society was talking about it. They are available on other websites across the country. I think Allies has picked them up, and I think Maytree was interested. So they've become a popular way to get message out, and other people are sort of copying that idea. Radio feature programs is another thing. We have 3 Rogers radio stations in North Bay. One, Moose FM, which is sort of the largest, has the most listeners. So that's 4. There's a Christian radio station. Then there's North Bay Radio. So we have lots of radio stations in North Bay. And they run a fair number of radio feature programs, which are fairly easy to get on. We have the luxury of them calling us. So we have, well, myself and other people involved get on the radio features that could be, you know, 4 or 5 minutes on a Saturday. So we do a lot of those. And of course we do a lot of radio interviews. Have Rogers Radio phones me at least once a month and say, hey, what's new? Yeah, let's, you know, the tape's rolling. What do you want to talk about? So that's, you know, another way of getting the word out. And radio will, normally if you send them a news release, they'll put it on air pretty quickly. An e-newsletter is something else that we've done. I do something quarterly, and my mailing list is now about 310, 320 people, and I build it up at events like this, so if you haven't been getting my newsletter, you might start. I've got your email address now. And it comes out quarterly, and it goes to clients, and it goes to funders, and it goes to people involved in immigration, and people we meet at conferences, and people we share ideas with. So it just keeps people up to date on what's new at the Multicultural Center, and we find that people want to know. I've had very few people send me an email and say, hey, get my name off the list, that's really boring, I don't want to know about it. So it seems to be working. And when I sent it to the Nugget, they actually put it on their website. So the newsletter is on our website after we're done, and it also appears on the North Bay Nugget website for a couple of days. News releases we do fairly often. You know, it's an easy way of getting the word out. Make sure you send it to all the media that are in your locale. Another communications initiative is the immigration portal. It was mentioned earlier. It went live in January of 2010, and in the first 10 months, it had more than 2 million hits from 60,000 different people. So we thought that was pretty good. We're not used to websites in North Bay getting that kind of traffic. So I think that is now our sort of go-to site where all the information will be about immigration. We are actually getting emails from people overseas through the immigration portal of people who want to emigrate to Canada and to North Bay. So they talk to our settlement staff before they leave their home country and then hook up with us when they get here. We've had a number of families where that's happened already. So that's going to happen more and more and more. Our own website at the Multicultural Center, we had much less traffic, about 3,400 people over 12 months, but that's significant for a small operation. And you know, these are people interested in coming to North Bay or interested in knowing more about immigration. And what we found is just in the last year, 14% of them came from the portal over to us. So their first connection with North Bay was through the portal. Then they saw the link to us there and jumped over to us for more information. And I think that number will continue to rise. We're also using Facebook. Not me, I don't know how it works. But that's the beauty of FedNor and Northern Ontario Heritage Fund interns. They know how Facebook works. So we do have a Facebook presence, and Jessica at the back of the room told me last week we have 100 likes and 87 friends. For those of you on Facebook, that'll mean something. Our newest venture is Skype, and we're probably going to use that more and more. That was a partnership with the Business Center, it works out of City Hall, where they use Skype in Sturgeon Falls and Parry Sound and Mattawa. And Twagaming? Okay, so they've allowed us to access that for our clients. So say we have a client in Sturgeon Falls who can't get into North Bay to see a counselor. They can just phone, email, hook up an appointment on Skype, and they can talk to each other face-to-face on Skype. Something new is we're expanding into Timmins in another couple of months, and we're opening a small office there, one-person staff. So I think Skype will become even more important because from the Timmins office, we're going to try to cover Kirkland Lake, which is a growing mining community. Timmins itself is growing with all the mining activity going on there. And then there's the area between North Bay and Timmins. For those of you from the south, it's a 4-hour drive from North Bay to Timmins. So we already cover from Parry Sound to North Bay, which is an hour and a half south of here. So our area, if we go north of Timmins up to Cap and Hearst, so you're probably looking at a 6-hour drive to cover our coverage area from south to north. So that, I think Skype is going to be becoming more important because it's very hard to have the staff and the time and the money to get out to see people in their home community. And just lastly, what I'd like to mention is other communications initiatives are based on events. We have an annual Canada Day event at the waterfront where we do a multicultural showcase, again, to show the community that things are changing. We have an international food festival every year at Nipissing University that we all get involved in organizing. We have the International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, which is now in its 23rd year in North Bay, being hosted at the university this year. And through that, we recognize students who make a difference. We have Human Rights Hall of Fame, where we recognize people who are involved in anti-racism or human rights work. And it gets a lot of media play, and it really educates the community. We usually get 200 to 300 people out to that event, so, and it's different people every year. They come to see their sons or their granddaughter or whatever get their awards, and we have entertainment on that evening. So 200 to 300 people every year for 23 years. Do the math, and you can see how many people in North Bay are hearing the message about anti-racism, inclusiveness, human rights. So we are setting the scene, to creating a welcoming community. Awards play a role. The North Bay Newcomer Network has won 2 Newcomer Champion Awards through the Ministry of Citizenship and Immigration. Chamber of Commerce awarded us with the Nonprofit of the Year Award very recently. We were very thrilled to get that. And we don't run out seeking awards, but when we do get them, we make sure people are aware of it, put it on our website, that sort of thing. So it just adds to our credibility as the place to go when you're looking for information on immigration. And lastly, I'll just mention, as far as communication goes, we do try to keep our funders and our local politicians informed and involved. The previous mayor of North Bay emailed me probably 3 or 4 times a week. Present mayor of North Bay emailed me this morning, so that's starting. The MP keeps in close contact with us, so they want to know what's going on. Because before the Multicultural Center was here, it was the MP and the MPP who got all the questions about immigration. So we're taking a lot of work off their shoulders. But they do want to stay involved, and we certainly try to work closely with our funders and keep them involved as well. So that is my little bit.
And we'll bring up Joe. I just want to mention we will have time for questions and answers at the end of all the presentations.
Thank you, LJ. So I am the chair of the Employers Council, and I just wanted to go over a brief history of where we were and what we're doing today. So we moved from an employment committee to an Employers Council in 2010. The employment committee was focused on helping newcomers and employers in the area hire newcomers. Composed primarily of service providers that were involved in preparing the newcomers for employment, the Employers Committee, it was felt, was not addressing employers' concerns and needs. So in January of 2010, a decision was made to move from the Employment Committee to the Employers Council and outreach to the employer community to try to get members. In April of 2010, the Employers Council was created. We started with 6 employers sitting at the table. We have supports from the Chamber of Commerce, the City of North Bay, the Labor Market Group. In addition, Yes Employment Representative Leanne Mayle stayed as the past chair of the Employment Committee. So our revised mandate as we moved from the committee to the council was to provide leadership to the North Bay Newcomer Network regarding employer-related issues impacting on the employer's ability to recruit and retain newcomers, and to collectively develop employer-driven strategies designed to reduce barriers newcomers face when connecting to the local labor market group. The members of the council, currently we have 10 employers from mining sector, transportation, government as an employer, manufacturing, call center, healthcare, and small and independent businesses. We also have still the Chamber of Commerce, the Labor Market Group, an employment support agency, and the North Bay Newcomer Network Coordinator, LJ. The organization of the council, the Employers Council is a committee of the North Bay Newcomer Network Executive, and as such the chair sits, there we go, happy clicker. The chair sits on the executive to represent the council and to relay other information to the executive and the members. The council has a chair and is in the process of identifying a vice chair or a co-chair to ensure continuity and succession planning. Okay. Some of our initiatives undertaken by the Employers Council since April of 2010. The North Bay Connector Program. It's part of the City of North Bay's Immigration, Attraction, and Retention Strategy. The Connector Program was implemented in 2010. The program is intended to help accelerate building professional and social networks for the newcomers by putting them in touch with business owners and operators, managers, volunteers, community leaders, and any other key contacts in the community. The program is based on a referral system in which the newcomer is matched with a volunteer connector. The connector meets with the newcomer, introduces them to two people, and then two people, and so on. To date, we've had 23 newcomers enroll to take part in the program. Our next program is Professions North. Let me just switch papers here. This is a bridging program for internationally educated professionals to assist them in acquiring their professional designations in Canada and to find work in their field of expertise. The program is being run through Laurentian University in Sudbury for the 5 main centers in the north: Sudbury, North Bay, Timmins, Sault Ste. Marie, and Thunder Bay. There are 2 main components: the learning, assessment, and determination of courses required by the internationally educated professional to enable Canadian licensing, and a workplace communication in Canada program to teach soft skills and how to effectively work in Canadian organizations. At the present time, this is a bridging program focused on finance and accounting designations, the CMA, CA, CGA. The program is done primarily online, with 50% of the workplace communication component being done in the classroom where they can practice their soft skills. Our next partnership is with Skills International. It's a database that assists in matching employer needs with pre-screened internationally educated professionals. It is an online tool that is cost-effective, efficient, and easy to use for the employers. The employers in North Bay can be supported by the North Bay District Multicultural Center to input and conduct searches. And in addition, North Bay was the pilot for the first virtual job fair between employers and candidates in December, and the results were very encouraging. The Employer Education Series. The Employers Council partners with local organizations in the City of North Bay to bring educational events to the employers through the employer breakfasts. The events focus on topics such as diversity and resources available to enhance employers' capacity to attract and retain newcomers. The next event will be on March 29th. Is that a promo? Okay, that's a promo. And will be coupled with the launch of 3 new programs on the immigration portal. Our Newcomer Talent Showcase newsletter, there's actually 2 or 3 on each table if you want to take a look. It's a short electronic newsletter that is sent out quarterly to inform local employers of the talent of newcomers residing in North Bay. It is published on the North Bay District Multicultural Center website, and it's circulated with the Chamber of Commerce newsletters and to members of the Employers Council. And lastly, and most recently, we're working on an HR guide for hiring and retaining newcomers. This is a work in progress with launch date of March 29th, the Employers Breakfast. Got it in again. And it will be an online document that can be customized and downloaded by businesses working with newcomers. The HR guide is one way to assist our small and medium businesses that might not have their own HR departments, so it's a reference for them and a resource, or it can be used by HR professionals in larger companies as a reference. They can go to it and get information. This document has been developed in consultation with local employers to better address their specific needs. And what local employers have to say. So based on that research on those focus groups that we had, the key results, there was a research paper created, and the key results were that the overall findings of the focus group and surveys, it indicates that employers in our area are very cognizant of the value in integrating immigrants into the local workforce. and that's good news. Also, when discussing general labor needs and concerns, employers feel that there are a number of challenges to work through, such as retirement leaving gaps in staffing, no one left to do the orientation of new employees, a lack of mentorship programs, both inside the workplace and outside, and a lack of succession planning and skill development when recruiting candidates that are either overqualified or underqualified, or there's insufficient numbers of them. Employers also indicate that the area of concern is a lack of engineers and skilled trades in the North Bay area, a shortage of bilingualism in specific fields, a lack of qualified applicants for professional services, and a lack of applicants experienced in working with the native population. But some of our success factors that came out of the focus groups. Employers are more open to hiring and retaining newcomers and are able to identify some of the supports that they require, such as language development for newcomers and soft skills programs that need to be offered. Also, another success factor, the North Bay Newcomer Network is building programs to address specific employer concerns by partnering with other community sectors such as education for development of specialized language training programs. Language was a key thing that came through all the focus groups and helping people with language. So our areas of growth. In the next 2 years, we're looking at mentoring programs to help newcomers settle into organizations and sectors inside our community. We're looking at cooperative work placements to allow both the employer and newcomer to get a feel for the organization, and these were suggestions that came out of the focus groups. Diversity training for the existing workforce to assist them to integrate newcomers on the shop floor level. One-stop shop for a job registry and access to pre-screened candidates. And that's it. So lastly, where to from here? Innovative language training, a key target identified from the focus groups. So we're going to be working with educational providers and partners to develop special language training, for example, with technical terminology specific to certain trades, certain fields, in English. We're also going to be looking at language residential boot camps that incorporate language skill development and workplace soft skills training. New program development to address gaps on the report and identified gaps. We're looking at mentoring program considerations, a relocation guide and HR guide for employers, again, that is rolling out on March 29th. And that will be available on the immigration portal as well. HR Service Center exploration of a fee for operation to support small businesses with no access to HR. Diversity training program to be accessed by employers at reduced rates. And ongoing building of tools and resources on the immigration portal. We're also looking at continuing our educational programs for local employers, continuing the ongoing employer breakfasts and events targeted addressing gaps identified through our research in the past and in the future. And that's all I have for that. Thank you.
Hi. Good morning. So my name is Deborah Robertson and I'm the Acting Programme Coordinator at the Multicultural Centre, and I also chair the North Bay Newcomer Network Settlement Committee. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some successful settlement initiatives that we've experienced in the past and a few that we're looking forward to in the future. The first key obstacle that we find is an absence of funding. So how do we overcome this? And in general, a lack of funding leads us to look at what is available in the community. It highlights the importance of partnerships and a pooling of resources, which therefore avoids the unnecessary duplication of effort. For example, in the absence of LINK funding, which is language instruction for newcomers to Canada, we've had to look at other ways of providing ESL to newcomers in the area. So our major partnership is with the Near North District School Board. They provide ESL classes during the day and during the night where possible. The class teacher works hard to immerse the students in the culture of the school and organises field trips and activities, etc. We also recognise the need for CLB assessments, Canadian Language Benchmark Assessments, which is the standard assessing tool of LINK, and the ESL teacher is now a certified CLB assessor. The school environment, however, or the timing of the school classes doesn't work for everyone. So we are also able, via our host program, to match newcomers one-on-one with local volunteers for tutoring. This is in addition to referrals made to existing services in the community. For example, the Literacy Council and Canada College also runs ESL programs as well. Some students were keen to continue their studies over the summer months. As we know, when you're learning a language, it's very difficult to take a break because the less you use it, the more you forget. So we called on our volunteers, and we're fortunate enough to have retired teachers or university professors to call upon. Also utilise the skills of a placement student from Canada that we had at the time, and put together a summer programme. So 4 mornings a week, we held lively ESL classes in our boardroom. Often clients realise that French is widely spoken and see learning French as an opportunity to further their job opportunities and social networks. So utilising the skills of our bilingual staff, we put together an informal lesson every 2 weeks, again held in our boardroom during the evening. We've also worked with the French Public School Board to develop FSL classes, which our clients now attend. Our English conversation circles are a hugely successful part of our host programme. Again, they're largely volunteer-led. They provide an opportunity for newcomers to meet other newcomers, practice their English, and share information about each other's culture. The evening is usually based around a theme, for example, Canadian weather, holidays, traditions, and we often play icebreaker-type games to get everyone involved. We hold these events at the public library to increase newcomers' ownership of their new community and to help them feel comfortable in accessing public resources. In addition, we organise many one-off events. For example, next weekend, we're taking around 15 to 20 newcomers skating, many for the first time. And where possible, we try to expose newcomers to typical Canadian activities that often require expensive equipment. Obviously, finding the budget for this can be a challenge, and here again, we find volunteers open up doors within our community. Someone knows someone who works at the ski hill, or my cousin's going ice fishing this weekend and can take a bunch of people. Or they simply provide the manpower to source Value Village for second-hand skates, etc. Here, where necessary, we supplement CIC funding with money raised by our various fundraising events. So I've talked about volunteers a lot, and I think it's clear their input has immeasurable value for our programs. They're often a way into the community for a newcomer. However, that is a two-way street. Newcomers benefit hugely from the experience and knowledge of locals, but the locals gain knowledge and understanding of other cultures from the newcomer, which is in turn shared within their own networks. This exchange allows for true integration within the community as a whole. With funding from New Horizons for Seniors, we've been able to set up an extremely successful international cooking club. The funding is based on mutually beneficial interaction between seniors and newcomers, and we were looking for a way to not only engage more senior volunteers, but to also expand our existing cooking club, so it was a perfect fit. We partnered with the Golden Age Club, which is housed in a seniors building right downtown. Our newcomers are now able to share their culture and traditions through their own treasured recipes, and our seniors are able to pass on Canadian cooking skills and techniques to newcomers who are eager to learn about their new home. In addition, both groups are working together to produce a cookbook of their collective recipes, which is furthering their opportunity to practice their language. It's been an immensely successful venture, so much so we now run 2 sessions per month rather than the required one, and we stopped advertising a while ago for fear of having to turn people away. Another initiative is the Anti-Racism Lending Library, which has come about as a collaboration of all 4 school boards. This initiative is funded by MCI. It's a bilingual resource for teachers or community members who want to introduce the often difficult topic of anti-racism or diversity to youth. It works like a regular library, it's free, it's housed at the Multicultural Centre, and all our resources are listed online on our website. We're also able to offer free delivery to schools through the school board's courier system. So far, we've had really great feedback from teachers. Things change. What's successful today won't always work tomorrow, and it's important to know when to say enough is enough, as much as it is to create new programs. We're mandated to collect and report on certain data, but we collect certain other data as well. And by carefully recording activities and their successes or lack of, attendance, and monitoring feedback from clients, we are able to spot trends and work towards addressing gaps in our programming. And a clear example of this is the number of immigrants arriving directly into North Bay as their initial destination, as opposed to secondary migration, has increased. As a result of this, we wanted to give each new client a substantial guide to the area, including information on our services and other services available. But we had no money to do this. So we got creative, and we took a guide to Ontario that had arrived from CIC. It supplies substantial information on settling into Ontario in English and French, plus a choice of 17 other languages. So we added 12 pages of local information to the front, slipped in a local transit map, and called it a welcome pack. So some key outcomes in the past 3 years from anecdotal evidence points to an increase in the length of time newcomers are staying in the area. And as I said, the number of immigrants coming directly to North Bay is increasing. We've also seen an increase in the number of temporary residents wanting to know how to transition to permanent residence. And on a more practical level, as Don mentioned earlier, we're about to partner with Timmins to open a settlement agency there. We look forward to working with our partners and further providing settlement supports to newcomers who have chosen to make their home in Northern Ontario. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. We're all alive and awake, right? I know what it's like. Anyway, have another coffee. First of all, I thought I'd let you know a little bit about how things have progressed at Nipissing University. In 2003, we developed the first international office at the university, and that's when I came to the city after having spent 23 years in the Waterloo region. There, I had the fortune of connecting directly with the Multicultural Centre in Kitchener, and that was very helpful because of the work that I did with international students on our campus. We integrated them into the community, and then I felt like I was a good contributing partner with the North Bay Newcomer Network when we had our first symposium, and then continued to work with the Newcomer Network here in North Bay as we move forward with our initiatives over the last few years. So when I first came to North Bay, Nipissing University had about 6 international students, and we had about 4 partnerships. Of course, those just were generated from professors who had links and connections in other countries. And now we have many formalized agreements. In fact, we have 32 partnership agreements in 18 different countries. We see a mobility of approximately 100 students coming to North Bay to study at Nipissing University, either through summer programs that we offer with our partner university in Mexico. Usually we have around 20 to 40 students each summer coming here and studying 2 intensive business courses. We're going to be adding to that program this summer, and we're inviting all of our international partners, hoping to make this a fully international summer program, also integrating Nipissing University students in our courses. And a number of other activities. We're partnering with Collège Boréal to offer French as second language, and we're also offering a 5-week intensive English as second language to preempt the business studies that will occur in the month of July. So with our partners that we have around the world, there are not only the bilateral partnerships that bring international students here as exchange students to our campus, but we also send students out. And we are sending out approximately 100 students per year. And those students are going out in different ways. And the reason I'm talking about our outgoing students is because it's a concept called internationalization at home. It's the idea that even what Joe was speaking about with the Employers' Council, how important it is for people here in North Bay to understand, accept, and embrace diversity here in our community. And in doing so, we encourage our students to go abroad and study abroad, either on exchange programs or in another particular program we have with our Schulich School of Education is our Schulich School of Education is our Bachelor of Education teacher placements. So we have, in fact, on Friday night, 40 of our students and 4 professors just returned from having done 3 weeks of international practice teaching placements in Kenya and in Ecuador. Now that provides a great advantage for those teachers when they come back here to Ontario or are further employed in Ontario schools, or perhaps may choose to go and teach abroad. But they have developed those intercultural competencies and skills that are so important for us all to have to live and work in peaceful environment that we have in this country. We have a few other new partnerships. In fact, a formal announcement will be coming out later this week. We have obtained HRSDC funding for student mobility projects. One is focused on biopower, renewable energy sources using wood pellets for biopower fuel. That partnership involves students and professors integrating with our students and professors from Slovakia and from Finland. One of the professors in Finland, for example, is the top professor in this field for all of the European Union. So we feel very privileged as a small institution to have that connection. Another one of the programs is a green building project, which we're joining into with partners from Finland again and also from Nantes in France. And the third one is a health project for nursing students to be mobile and work in connection with university partners in the United States and Mexico. Now, not only are our students going to these locations, but students from these locations are also coming here. And some will be doing research, others will be studying, and perhaps down the road, some may be staying. That brings me yet to another partnership we had with China, where our student teachers go into teacher education placements in China at Guangxi University. We receive their students, usually 10 students per semester who come here and study. And one of those students has now decided to transfer her degree here, and she's studying full-time in business studies. We have 2 more who just went home at Christmas, and they're already anticipating how they can come here to Nipissing to do their degree. So again, we have to be creative with the way that we recruit students, and the target markets that we're trying to identify need to align with university priorities, the programs that we have expertise and excellence in, especially with our professors and the research that they're involved in. When the students are here, we see a real value to them, their presence on the campus, in particular, as I said, to internationalization at home and helping other students here in Canada, particularly in Northern Ontario, realize and understand the difference in traditions, religions, and other aspects of culture. It's such a valuable experience to feel comfortable with people once you get to know them. Often students are also developing their language skills, and as we all know, if you've tried to learn another language, that can be a challenge. So we have a lot of mentoring programs and out of classroom activities that we offer for the students so that they feel comfortable and can integrate effectively here. The North Bay and District Multicultural Center has been key location for many of our international students. One in particular, we sponsor a program through the World University of Service of Canada, which is called the Student Refugee Sponsorship Program. And in that particular one, we are thrilled that we've now sponsored 3 students. One is successfully employed as a nurse at North Bay Regional Health Center. The other will be completing his studies in social welfare studies this May, so he's looking for a job. And the third student we're sponsoring is now in her first year of the nursing program. These students, we must sponsor, raise money, and do activities in order to raise that money to help them live here, because they literally come with a suitcase and about $50 in their pocket. The Canadian students integrate and connect with them. Our student union helps support them. Our university waives the tuition fees, and our community embraces them. One way that our community has showed their financial support is attending the International Food Fest, which Dawn mentioned earlier. That Food Fest this year, you might want to mark on your calendar, is April 2nd. It will be held at the university at the location called The Wall, which is the student pub. This last year, we had over 600 people attend, and there were foods from 35 different countries. And we raised over $4,000, and every cent of that went to the sponsored student to help them survive and enjoy life here in Canada. We're really proud of that program. And last year, our local committee, our WUSC local committee on campus in November, won the Committee of the Year award for all universities across Canada. So we're very proud. The integration of students takes many forms. First of all, they're coming from locations that are so extremely diverse from where they have been. Coming here to Canada, as you know, Northern Ontario, the snow's a challenge, the cold weather's a challenge. I see students in class often still wearing their coats and hats in of April. And other students, Canadian students, are outside kicking soccer balls around with T-shirts and shorts on. And it's really wonderful seeing them enjoying and living the spirit of the North here. Many of these students have found employment here in North Bay and chose to continue to live here after they've graduated. Others have gone on to other locations in Canada. And we're also thankful for the citizenship immigration programs that enable students to get postgraduate work permits so that they can then live in Canada. What key recruitment tool, let's think about it, if we can get them here and get them here in the first place, come here, perhaps study English language, then study here, obtain our credentials at our institutions, then they're employable, and they wouldn't have the challenges that so many other newcomers have with having to attain the proper credentials to study here. So recruitment's a huge aspect. If we can work together to do that recruitment, it's excellent. I connect with my colleagues at Canada College from time to time, and we share materials. Also, I'm now communicating with the Near North District School Board, and we're looking at methods of recruitment, not only at the university level, but also at the secondary level. So there's ways to partner to bring students here to study, and we can see that flow coming through. When we talk about numbers of new immigrants coming, the more students who come, they tell cousins, aunts, uncles, moms, dads, perhaps if they're skilled, they will have opportunities to gain immigration status to come live and work here as well. Some of the highlights that we as a university focus on our recruitment strategy is we talk about one student at a time as a tagline, and we really mean it. We're fortunate. We're a smaller institution, and students are one student at a time. They're not numbers in the registrar's office. They come in, they have names, and we work at trying to get to know how to pronounce those names, especially when they're coming from diverse locations. And those students have regular opportunities for mentoring, orientation programs, ongoing advising. I wear many hats, and one of them is the International Student Advisor as well. So I help students through their immigration issues and obtaining their work documents, etc. Students at Nipissing also have the opportunity to engage in research at the undergraduate level. And if you'd like an opportunity to see that, April 2nd, if you come to the Food Fest, that's also the day we're having the Undergraduate Research Conference. So undergraduate research poster competitions will be displayed at the university, and we'll direct people in that way. We partner with a lot of organizations in the community. As I mentioned, the North Bay Newcomer Network. Big Sisters, Big Brothers has been another key factor for students who are in that age group between youth, well, you know, kind of like 18 years old or so, and 25 or 24. The challenge is the Big Brothers Big Sisters their current funding has ended. They were not successful in receiving a secondary funding for this purpose. And so this group of students is losing out as far as formal integration programs in the community, host family programs, host community programs. So I encourage anyone who has ideas about that to talk to us later. In the meantime, at the college and university, we'll do the best we can to integrate the students into the local community, and we appreciate the efforts of individuals in our community too. Many of our students also go to the North Bay District Multicultural Center to participate in the language circles, the cooking classes, and things of that sort. So that's a lot of fun for them, and it makes them feel that they have a home away from home, in a fully multicultural, multi-dynamic kind of environment. Every one of our workplaces should become that. And lastly, I'd like to point out the aspects for the university outreach programs. The staff within my office, we're two, do have some excellence and expertise in training, in diversity training, intercultural training. We do that primarily on the campus, but whenever possible, we'll extend those resources externally as well, and hopefully become more involved in the employers network as that moves forward. We've also supported, as an institution, all of the other partners, our stakeholders within the North Bay Newcomer Network, by writing support letters that have been signed off by myself or the president of the university for various initiatives such as the English language program and other funding bids that the North Bay and District Multicultural have submitted. And a new initiative that we're working on right now, first of all with the North Bay and District School Board, Near North School Board rather, and hoping to grow to the other school boards, is an initiative we call GLOCAL. GLOCAL is the idea of thinking globally and acting locally. By empowering and training our Nipissing University students to engage and connect with students in our high schools and perhaps eventually our elementary schools, sharing what they know about international development and global issues, we feel that we can help empower our youth at a young age to understand and realize what internationalization is all about. We will have our international students who come from many lands be involved in this program, where they can go into classes locally and share what their country is about. And we can have our returning exchange students who have gone and studied in many countries around the world come back and share the value of that international experience and language acquisition. There are a number of programs that really focus on international development. Many of our school boards are involved with the NGO Free the Children, so we're very excited to partner and work with them on a regular basis, and we will help to empower those programs to be involved in the local classes. In closing, I'd just like to say it's been wonderful for Nipissing University to be able to work together with so many people here in the North Bay community and beyond. We appreciate the opportunity that has developed and determined what an important point, an important purpose that international students play in our local community, as they probably will become our future. And as Diane said at the beginning, we are in a region of the world like no other. We're all proud to be here and to be in Northern Ontario. Thank you.
Being in economic development, I'm going to speak a little bit about the attraction piece. I've been told I'm the blank filler, so whatever anybody missed, I'm going to kind of fill in those gaps for you. There's a few projects and a few things that weren't mentioned that I think are worth mentioning. From an immigration attraction standpoint, I'm going to rewind a little bit. The reason the city became so involved or identified immigration as kind of a priority is because of our local businesses who had indicated that they had difficulty accessing labor, or they projected difficulties accessing labor. That's not a secret to anybody in the room. Everybody's facing the same challenge, and that's one of the primary reasons many of us are involved in these types of initiatives. Given that, you would think from an economic development standpoint and the way we operate, the first thing I would have done would have been to say, okay, how do we advertise, how do we get people here? Because that's what you do to attract people. But we took a step back and said, okay, you know, maybe that's not the best bet. Maybe that's not the way we should approach things. We should probably put, as I've said recently in an article, put the cart before the horse in this particular instance. We need to focus on retention before attraction, because we could have attracted many, many people here, and our employers will tell you that's the biggest issue they have, is once they've attracted is the retention piece. So we thought, okay, what are we going to do to make sure that we can retain people? And that's how NNN evolved. That's when we determined, okay, we need to call partners to the table, figure out how do we move forward, how do we develop programs, where are the gaps, where are the challenges, how are we going to make sure that when we do initiate attraction projects and initiatives, that we can keep people. So as you can see by many of the things that people mentioned here, I think we've done a fair bit. You know, we're looking at the 2006 data. We started this in 2006. I'd like to think that the picture would change. I think we're a heck of a lot more attractive than we were, maybe not from a water usage standpoint, but everything else, from services provided and maybe the attractiveness from a society standpoint would be different. Even, you know, the number of people that we have welcomed to the community, the different diversity of the people that have come to the community, I think that has definitely increased. As Deborah had indicated, the number of people coming directly to North Bay. as opposed to, being secondary migrants. I think that speaks volumes to the work that we've done as far as, program development and promotion and so forth. So I'd like to think, that the numbers will be different in the future. Also, as you've seen, we've won several awards, so I guess we're doing something right. So we're very proud of that. Anyhow, from an attraction standpoint, there's a number of different things that we identified once we had a lot of these programs in place. We identified local realities and the impact in the future of, the lack of demographics, lack of babies, so on and so forth. Figured out what we should do from, what the issues were, what the challenges were, what the opportunities were, and based on that, developed a lot of these programs. And getting input from newcomers and new Canadians. That was kind of the first thing we identified in the symposium that Dawn had mentioned, was to kind of get the input from people living here. We realized from the get-go that that was key to making sure that we're meeting the needs of people who would be moving here or who were currently living here. So for developing the policy or the programs was important to get that input, and we developed a formal or a council adopted strategy in 2007. So that strategy has since changed because that strategy identified a number of priorities, and I'm happy to say that all of those priorities were met, and we are since kind of in the works of revisiting that strategy because we have managed to meet all those priorities, which I think from a kind of municipal government standpoint, that's a pretty big achievement to put kind of priorities down in a strategy and actually do all of them, because Jerry's probably going to give me a dirty look when he says he shouldn't say that, but it's true. We don't normally develop a document and achieve all of the objectives, and we have. We realize how important these immigration attraction and retention is to the community and the growth of our community. Thank you. So as I said, we've focused on retention before attraction. And some of the ways, since we've developed all these programs, we've kind of moved forward for attraction itself, is the use of the North Bay Immigration Portal. As Dawn indicated, the numbers are pretty solid. Granted, the first couple of months, we didn't really do any marketing around them, so the numbers were okay. And I'm thinking.
And Marla for presenting, and I know that they'll be around, and myself as well, if you have any other questions that you want one-on-one. It is now some of our favorite time. It's lunchtime, and there's a buffet that is ready, and I would ask that you please return by 1:30. We'll be starting at 1:30 sharp. All right, thank you.